1,000 better
1,000
stories.
better
1,000 better stories.
1,000 better stories.
You're listening to 1,000 Better Stories, the Scottish Communities Climate Action Network's podcast sharing stories of community-led climate action in Scotland to help us all imagine the better and fairer future and transform what we think is possible. Hi, it's Kashka, your story weaver. We're still in a holding pattern as we're waiting for funding news, so there's been no new content from us. But in the meantime, we're delighted to be able to share the great work done by other climate-engaged podcast channels from across Scotland. If you find this channel useful and if you can spare a few pennies, we would really appreciate your donation through our Ko-fi account. It will help us cover the basic podcasting subscription costs to keep things going and secure a future for 1,000 Better Stories. You can donate at ko-fi.com/1000 Better Stories pod. That's 1000 Better Stories, one word. I've popped the link into the episode notes along with other resources. Today we'll hear a crossover episode from the Highland Good Food Podcast, which is delivered by the Highland Good Food Partnership. It's been going for 5 years now. They have a great archive on Highland food-related topics going back to the lockdown years. It covers crofting, politics and policy, food waste, local food businesses and future-proof farming. We share an episode from 2022 in which the host Laura Dorantt interviews guests from 3 different community food growing projects from across the Highlands. I thought it was a perfect theme for spring and the start of the growing season.
Welcome to the Highland Good Food Podcast. My name's Laura Dorantt, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to 3 founders of community-driven groups and projects in the Highlands, with the focus being on community food growing. Let's start by speaking to Anna Patfield from Planet Sutherland, Sutherland's climate action group. Hi Anna, how are you today?
I'm grand, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. It's really lovely to speak to you. I'm excited to learn about Planet Sutherland. So maybe you could start by introducing yourself and Planet Sutherland. That'd be great.
Okay. So I'm Anna Patfield, and I founded Planet Sutherland probably about 3 years ago now. Basically, it started because I got an attack of climate anxiety and thought I better do something about it. So I started chatting with some folks, and then with the support of friends and then some founding directors, we pulled Planet Sutherland together. It's now a SPIO, a Scottish charity, and basically we help everybody do more to help the planet. That's what it's really all about.
Okay, so it's a big umbrella group with the motivation of taking local action with regards to climate change, is that right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we've got a very wide remit. It's about community-driven ideas. We started out by having carbon cafes just to get folks together, to get the conversation started, to answer questions, to support each other with any kind of stress that was or worries that were going on, and then to build projects out of those cafes if that's what folks wanted to do, or just to help everybody make the small changes that together all help.
Yeah, I think we underestimate small change sometimes, don't we?
Indeed, yeah, absolutely.
And so within the group that is Planet Sutherland, what's going on in terms of community food?
Well, we started out, I guess we renovated the Lower Primary School polytunnel, and then we've built other polytunnels with the community and helping each other. So that's one area of growing. We support all the community growing groups around the place, and we have planted, well, we had 2 orchard projects really. First one was about 2.5 years ago. We had a wee distributed orchard round about Argyll, and then more recently we've been working with the Sutherland Community Partnership and just last week distributed 45 fruit trees round about 5-6 different locations. So we've now got 6 mini orchards throughout Sutherland.
That's fab, Anna. And who has access to the orchards? Like, who can come and use them as a space and also benefit from the produce?
Yeah, well, the one that's in our guy is in the church garden church area, so that's completely open to the public. The others are either maybe beside a community hall, Coleraine Community Hall, or some of them are in schools, so they're kind of open to the pupils, the teachers and the parents, although in a year's time, in the October, we will probably have a sort of orchard festival, so that will pull the community and of all ages, the schools, the church, the communities, the community hall folks, pull everybody together in the area and really try to have a Sutherland-wide orchard festival, or even Highland-wide orchard festival.
That sounds fab. That sounds really good. So what I'm hearing is that you're using shared spaces and food as a way of pulling the community together. So that seems like one reason why community food is really important. Can you give us any other reasons why community food, growing together, sharing, why is it so important now?
Yeah, well, I mean, as we all experienced at the beginning of COVID, the food shortages in supermarkets and so on, and nowadays most of us quite naturally just get all of our food from supermarkets, and we push a button and get it delivered, and to a large extent we don't really think about where the food's come from or how it's grown. So what we tend to find is that by developing food growing in the community, whether that's in allotments or as a community garden, or even as individuals working together with a neighbour or whatever, it really helps folks to focus in on food seasonality. It helps us to think about the health of really fresh food that's literally been picked out of the ground and is in your mouth within a matter of minutes. That's much more healthy for us. So it reduces food miles, it reduces plastic. And also, as we grow our own food, it's the next natural step is making our own compost, which really helps to improve the quality of the soil. At the moment, or the quality of our soil in the world is really depleted of nutrients, so it really helps with that. And also, it helps with biodiversity and trying to get the insect population back up from its catastrophic place. So it's good for insects and birds and animals, and it's good for our physical health and also our emotional health as well.
Which is something we've all been pushed to the limits of, especially in the last couple of years with COVID. And what started as a conversation, a cup of tea and a group of people discussing what they'd like to do has grown into something so beneficial in so many ways. It's just, it seems so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's a really natural step, and we've got some fantastic community garden groups that have been on the go for a few years who've all been really very helpful in getting other folks set up and started as well.
So how can people get involved?
So Planet Sutherland is open to members from anywhere throughout the Highlands or broader. We do have a wide geographic spread, although so we're acting local and thinking globally or UK wide. So we welcome anybody. We've got a very active Facebook group. In fact, more than one. We've got one that focuses on polytunnels and one that focuses on orchards, and one that's a general climate action group chat, which really again covers a wide range of topics. So Facebook primarily is where we are. We've got a website, planetsutherland.com, which has got information about all of our projects and how to get in touch, whether you want to join the mailing list, or indeed you can just email me directly at anna@planetsutherland.com.
I really enjoyed speaking to Anna. I feel really encouraged by her story, really inspired by how she turned a personal challenge into something so beneficial for her local and wider community. So next, let's hear from Mairi McPherson from Fearn Free Food Garden near Tain. Hi Mairi, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a lovely weekend in the garden.
Thank you so much for speaking to me today. It'd be lovely if we could start with you introducing yourself.
Sure. I'm Mairi McPherson. I'm the chair of the Fearn Free Food Garden. As of last night, we had our inaugural formal constitutional meeting, which is very exciting because it marks a big step forward that it's no longer just a ragtag bunch of people that are coming together, but an actual formal group that can think more strategically and apply for funding and all that kind of thing.
That's great news.
Yeah, and I also run Highland Seedlings, which does all sorts of educational garden things on the side. But the Fearn Free Food Garden is what we're here for today.
Sure. And so where is Fearn for people that don't know?
So Fearn is near Tain. It's not far off the A9. It's a small village surrounded by fields where you largely see sheep and cows and barley and turnips and things like that.
And the Fearn Free Food Garden. So what is it?
So the Fearn Free Food Garden is a small community garden that literally lives at the back of our house on a small piece of unused space. And it's got raised beds of various kinds and polytunnels that have been gifted to us by the community. And it's a space to grow food and to come together and sit and chat and to learn and to just provide a bit of community in the village that doesn't otherwise have a community centre anymore. Our village hall is now owned by someone and there's no cafe or anything. So it's sort of the one space other than the primary school where you can come and sit. And it's open to everyone. And we meet regularly and we chat food and we grow food and we give food away. And its key principles are it's an organic space and that food is free and that folks pay what they can if they can, but also they don't have to. And that's all part of how it's envisaged and how it runs.
That sounds like a lovely space and very inclusive as well. When did it start? When did the Free Food Garden start?
So the Free Food Garden as such started a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic. We converted a small piece of front garden by the side of the lane, by the side of our house, to beds, raised beds, and stuck a big sign that said Free Food Garden on it. And it was going to be sort of the beginnings of a community garden. And then COVID came along and we didn't quite know what to do. So we ended up doing a Saturday share table in the driveway where we shared what we'd grown surplus. People came along and shared their stuff as well. And then it evolved from that. We got involved with the local primary school, finally managed to have a really nice conversation with them. And the schoolyard is entirely concrete. There's not much growing space there because of where it is in the village. So they were excited about having a space for kids to grow stuff. So they got one of the farmer dads to come and clear this space around the back for us, which was amazing. Took him 20 minutes in a big tractor, and it would have taken us weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And that really set the tone. And then folks started donating things, giving us things, bringing their time. And this year we have a core group of volunteers and others who come along, and we're really ready to get going properly.
So it sounds to me like there's a lot of different people involved. It sounds like the community is really on board. Did you expect that when you started it, or has it just happened very organically? Excuse the pun.
No, it's happened organically. It's exactly that. We weren't quite sure what to expect, but we're Seamus and I are both good at just randomly talking to people and chatting to people and making conversations and that kind of thing. So it sort of came about from there. And it's happened organically. And I wouldn't say that, the village as a whole is involved, but there are enough pockets of folks in the village who are, and also from the surrounding areas. You get folks from the seaboard villages and from Tain, and some as far away as Inverness come to the stall sometimes. And that's a really lovely thing. And I feel like there's a sort of Easter Ross is missing a trick because you've got the wonderful Transition Black Isle further south, and Planet Sutherland is doing excellent stuff up north. But here in Easter Ross, we're sort of a bit behind the times, I think, when it comes to community gardens and things. So we're excited to sort of get that going and learn from other places as well. And one of our key vehicles for getting people involved is free plants. So we have the space and time and setup to be able to grow an awful lot of vegetable plants for people, which is a big hindrance, I think, if you're starting out, particularly if you don't have a polytunnel. So we grow about 5,000 free plants for people. And that's an awesome conversation starter. And the first year they get free plants, and then the next year they maybe grow from seed, and that all grows arms and legs. And because the people that get the plants are used to us sharing things and sharing the stuff we produce, that's sort of in there from the beginning for them as well. And that's quite exciting.
There's so much I want to talk to you about. This leads into so many things, links with the school and different people within the community. What would you say is, if you can distill it down to like one key point of what, I've heard a few things already, but I'd like you to tell me if there's one key point about what's so important, what the Fearn Free Food Garden offers the community that's unique.
I think it's a community space and a space of conversation and being yourself, no matter your circumstances. That, to me, is the key thing. We tell people it's about vegetables and it's about food, and that lures them in. But really, it's about conversation, and it's a space to meet other people that you wouldn't otherwise meet, and to be out and about as a gentle, quiet group.
Yeah. And how would people get involved if they're in your area or nearby, near enough to come in person?
Right. So the Facebook page, Highland Seedlings and the Fearn Free Food Garden, which we're in the process of switching to just Fearn Free Food Garden. So depending on when you're listening to this, it might be one or the other. That gives you information about when we're meeting and what happens and special events and stuff like that. Our Instagram, Highland Seedlings, is probably the best way of getting to know us personally, to see what we do. And every Monday we have a gardening group from 1:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. If you're free on a Monday afternoon, just pop along, and there's a wee village car park by the green, or you can come round to the community garden, which comes up on Google Maps and is tucked away off Smith Place in Fearn. It's quite difficult to find, but once you're there, you know where it is.
I did actually have a look on Google, and yes, you're featured on the map, so that's good. So I'm hearing this community inclusiveness, inviting people in. There is the link to food, encouraging people to grow their own. And from your website, I got this impression that there's a wider context to this. There's a wider social context to growing food and actually coming together as a community and saying food is free. It's quite, it can be experienced as an act of resistance. It certainly says on your website as well. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's totally. We think of all of this as a really radical act, because we are, as a society, we're not conditioned to think of food in that way. And there's loads of sort of longer answers I could give that. It's to do with the availability of land and ranting about capitalism and all the rest of that. But for us, it's always the Highlands. It's always about land. It's very hard for people to access big chunks of land, but a lot of people have access to a small garden, a small front garden, shared council-owned spaces, and things like that. And if people grew a bit more food communally as a group, that leads to a bit more self-sufficiency, communal self-sufficiency as a group. None of this is about isolation and shutting yourself away. And also that makes you question the whole way you live. Do you really need to go buy bread? Can you make it? Do you need new clothes all the time, or can you mend them? Or all that kind of way of thinking. So we think it's a radical act because it makes you really think differently about your time, your energy, what to give that to. And it's a huge confidence boost. If you can feed yourself, that is the greatest confidence boost you can ever have. So we think of it as an educational empowerment tool along those lines as well. And one of the places we're very keen on and we look up to is the Soulfire Farm people in upstate New York. Have a look at their YouTube videos. They're an amazing bunch of people, and that's something that inspires us.
I can't wait to visit the Fearn Free Food Garden. And this seemingly simple concept of growing together and sharing food can actually be a really radical act in today's society and challenge a lot of our accepted norms. I'm going to finish today's episode with a conversation on the West Coast near the Sky Bridge with Emma Bennon, the founder of the Auchtertyre Community Garden. Hi Emma, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for talking to me. I'm really looking forward to hearing about the community garden in Auchtertyre. Could you start us off by introducing yourself and the garden, please?
Well, I'm Emma and I live in Kirkton. I'm about half a mile away from the community garden, and it's just such a lovely space.
Are you in a village or a town?
Well, it's a very, very tiny village. It's in Auchtertyre, which is between 5 and 6 miles from the Sky Bridge.
How did the community garden get started? When did it get started, and who started it up? What's the story?
Well, I suppose during lockdown, I had this idea for a community garden because although we've got lots of space up here, and we've obviously got beautiful places, beautiful wild places, we don't have anywhere to sort of gather as a community. We don't have village halls, and we don't have parks, and we don't have anything like that. So I sort of tried to get onto the schools during lockdown, which was quite difficult because the schools were clearly very, very busy with trying to adapt to everything they needed to adapt to. But what was really clear was that people needed somewhere to be together. And then I found the Highland Good Food Partnership, and they were talking about a sustainable circular food system. Sure. And I just thought it would be really nice to have somewhere that could provide that kind of principle, and also provide somewhere where people could just be together.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the schools, Emma. You mentioned that you approached the schools. Can you tell us about the Auchtertyre Community Garden and its link to the local school?
Yeah, so it turned out that the land that I was looking at was actually the responsibility of the school, because they've also got a nursery close by, and the land was theirs to use, really. So it kind of became quite easy because it meant that the school could definitely be involved,
And was that important to you, that the school was involved?
Yes, definitely. I think it's really important that all schools are involved and all forms of education are involved, not just primary schools and nurseries, but secondary and tertiary education as well. And looking to the future, I'm really hoping that we can get the West Highland College involved in some way.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is that you felt a need during lockdown for a community space, and presumably you have an interest in growing food and having a local food system. And so you use that as the focal point, and then from there it can, the potential to grow is just enormous, isn't it? To connect all the schools and the high school and the college. So how long exactly how long ago did the community garden start? Like, when did it officially, when was it officially birthed?
Officially, probably January.
Okay. Wow. Super new, early stages.
Very early, yes. But there were 18 months prior to that I had been trying to start it, but definitely in January. And on that first day, I put out a Facebook post and I said to people, please come along. And if you've got any tools, please bring them. And people turned up in absolute force. I was completely blown away. We had people turning up with diggers and dumper trucks and hand tools, and there were kids from 2 years old to adults in their 70s. There were nearly 40 people turned up that day, which is absolutely incredible when you think about where we live and how isolated it is. It was just amazing.
That's brilliant, Emma. And it just goes to show that it's not just you feeling the need for that community space and a community growing space. It just took you to start it. So well done you.
But people just need somewhere to be together.
Absolutely. So what did you practically do? What did you physically do in the space together? What have you done so far?
So far, we're focusing on trying to clear the ground and making it accessible, because it was so overgrown. At the moment, we're trying to make it accessible, and we've done it to the extent that every Friday morning I'm taking a group of primary school children there to work, and they can do it safely.
Fabulous. And so what's the vision? You know, this is you just starting, and it's really a focal point for community and a way of threading different parts of the community together. But in terms of the actual garden, what's your vision? What's the plan? What do you want to grow, and how is it going to grow?
Well, I think the plan is that it will be a kitchen garden, so it will produce food.
And who will have access to that food? Who will be able to enjoy the produce?
Absolutely everybody. That is the main idea, is that it is accessible to absolutely everybody and anybody that wants to come along there. I know it's in the early stages, but we have been holding lots of different workshops with some wonderful volunteers that have stepped out from the community. We've had lots of art days. We've had lots of working days where people are learning how to clear ground and learning how to prepare ground, learning about compost. So we really do want it to be an educational space, but we also want it to be a peaceful space where people can just go if they want to go and just have a chat to somebody.
Absolutely. It's so simple, so important, isn't it? So if people want to get involved, how do they contact you? How do they find you?
Well, we've got a Facebook page, and it's simply called Auchtertyre Community Garden. So they can contact me there. It's quite informal, you know. If I'm going down there, I post up that I'm going down, and people turn up. And other people, anyone can post on there. So if somebody, for example, if somebody's got plants that they want to share, we use the bus stop as well as a little sharing point.
Lovely. Use what you've got. Start from where you are.
We really do. And there was a lovely lady, and during lockdown, Mairi turned the bus shelter into this beautiful space for people. So we're trying to continue that and carry on using the bus shelter as well for a sort of contact point for people.
I've got this image in my head now. It's really about bringing people together, offering that space, you know, a quiet, safe space for people just to be in, producing local food as well for everybody. And there's that education side, there's that art side. I mean, it just sounds like a wonderful community action, and I wish you well with it. I look forward to watching it grow. Big thanks to Emma and Anna and Mairi for speaking to me today and sharing their stories and sharing their experiences with us. I find it so inspiring what we can do if we just get started. The importance is to sow that first physical and metaphorical seed, to grow food, to grow community, and in turn to nurture our creativity and ultimately empower ourselves. You can join the Highland Good Food conversation by going to highlandgoodfood.scot and following us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. You can also become a Highland Good Food member. Simply go to highlandgoodfood.scot/membership. Have a read through of our values, and if you agree, simply sign up. Membership is free and open to all. Thanks again to Anna, Mairi and Emma for today's episode. And thanks to you all for listening. Bye for now.
I hope you've been inspired a little bit to go out there and do some growing this spring. I've just taken on a small garden bed myself in my local community garden here in Tayport, and I can report that my broad bean seedlings are doing just fine. But I've not had much luck with the coriander and salad mix yet. I'm still hoping they'll start germinating when it gets a wee bit warmer. You can find a list of growing and food projects on our members page if you'd like to get involved in growing together yourself. Thanks to Highland Good Food Partnership for sharing this story with us. You can listen to their podcasts on Spotify, Podbean and Apple Podcasts. Link is in the show notes. We'll share more stories soon, together, fingers crossed, with the news about our future plans. In the meantime, please do show your support for this channel, share, like and review our stories, or if you can afford it, donate a few pennies through our Ko-fi account, ko-fi.com/1000 Better Stories Pod. You can find details in the show notes. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and share it with others. It'll really help us reach a wider audience. If something exciting is happening in your own community, be sure to let us know so that we can help you tell your own story. You can drop our story weavers a line at stories@scan.scot. It's scan, SCCAN, .scot, SCOT. We also offer training and mini-grant support to community storytellers. To keep up to date with our offerings and everything Scan, check out our website at scan.scot or find us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, or simply sign up to the newsletter.